And what I want to see happening is I want a human race that literally will worship God 10,000 or a million years from now. And the words that we say today on this program, Tim, will be scripture 1,000 and 10,000. They're not our words. They're words given to us by our Maker, by the Creator God.
Well, we're also in the end times. We're in
we are most definitely. We're
physically important time period. And we're some of the people that are speaking to millions of people, warning people.
She's gonna fight back. She's gonna fight back. She's gonna fight back, Steinbeck. She's gonna fight back. Fucking, what are you talking about, Kev? Fucking, your emotional intelligence IQ is so fucking low, it's pathetic. You got
what's coming, and
right. And maybe tens of thousands of prophets.
And what's coming.
We live in a historic, epic fucking time. The Pacific Genocide is the most epic event in fucking human history. Fucking 3 open fucking reactors just fucking blowing into it. And
it says there's 144,000. It's not an absolute number. Sealed with the seal of the Most High God before the blowing of the trumpets. Okay, and what that means is there's and each one, by the way, means one of the stones of the breastplate. I have it over in clay and iron, called the Prayer of the 12 Stones. It explains that we are the called out ones. We are the special generation that God has given to know, as Daniel said in his prophecy, close up and seal the words of the book. Many will run to and fro across the face of the earth, and knowledge will greatly increase. Of course, Daniel didn't understand these words or what they meant, many of them. But he said at the time of the end, these words will be understood. People will know what they mean. It will no longer be, we can't understand these words, what's going on. Everything is becoming evident now. Everything.
Fascism was misnamed. He said it should have been called corporatism.
Right. And what we have, right now, I'm going to say this. When I watch this movie by Josh Del Sol about how bad these things are, you don't understand. All they need to do, and I'm just going to say this. Have you ever think called broadband over internet and broadband over power lines? You ever heard about broadband?
Well, I'm watching right now.
Oh, okay, no, I'm talking about, I know the technology. I presented a paper 33 years ago to a panel of biophysicists about my principles called Phonon Maser Biophysics, and thank God I never published it, because that was 1982 I presented that paper to a panel of biophysicists, Dr. Rollins of the University of Calgary, and many doctors and PhDs. If they knew what I knew when I was actually taking care of employees in the late 80s, early 90s, that were working at the Halifax International Airport in Pratt & Whitney, and they had an accident with a directed energy weapon offshore. They were doing research parallel to what's going on in Bethesda at Johns Hopkins University for DARPA. On directed energy weapons they deployed with terahertz waves, collimated beams to cause apoptosis on the M1 Abrams tank and the A-10 Apache helicopter, the systems. What people need to understand is they can broadcast a frequency that can harm you. Now, the switching mode power supplies are already doing it, but they can actually tune in. Now, if you have a chip in you or if you have a vaccine in you that can respond to that harmonic frequency, they can have biological effects on you amplified by the fact you've been pre-chipped or pre-vaccinated and have a tattooed or nanomachine inside you that will amplify that effect. As I mentioned this story before a few times in the last couple of weeks, when they cut off the water, there's not enough water to shower or to drink water.
3 days.
When the money is gone because they seized your bank account, which is called bailing in, which is the Federal Reserve, the Canadian Bank, and the British banks and the European central banks have already said bailing in is okay to steal all your money and pension funds. When you can't buy food, fill your car with gas, get a six-pack, or buy a pizza, you're going to see people with, as they say, pitchforks and guns going crazy. And the globalists, what they're going to do, because they're all wimps, they're going to get in their private jets and try to head off to their island or try to have the private army protect them. The public is going to go nuts. And when people start force vaccinating, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, but I can tell you, it's my guess that upward of 1 million people are going to have legal and or physical conflicts with schools, doctors, and politicians. Near atmospheric debris in space, and Professor McKinney probably has a comment on this. The space warfare has already started, hasn't it, Professor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you see missiles being shot down that are, all the way up almost into orbit and the payload blows up, never, ever, ever in 1 million years happens, but happens 3 times in a row. pretty strange stuff. But yeah, it's very clear that somebody's doing some shooting there, and we don't really quite know who. I imagine
I have a pretty good idea, actually. From my contacts, I know exactly who it is. For example, right on the launch pad in North Korea the last 5 years, they've tried to do a lot of number of launches, and they've actually had the guidance system fried by lasers from space on the launch pad by us.
Oh, okay. So that's what happened to their. It wasn't a rocket motor failure.
No, it was fried from space, fried by space-based lasers. They have them in Boeing 747 jets. They have these space-based laser systems, and they have them in space weapons platforms, including the ones we talked about last week, rods from God, which are depleted uranium rods that are a meter long and about a centimeter and a half or so, a couple centimeters across. And these rods from God are accelerated by a linear accelerator weapon system in space to 23,000 miles an hour and targeted. So when it hit the ground, you think it's an asteroid, but it's actually a depleted uranium rod causing a thermonuclear explosion when it hits the ground and impact. So
yeah, that's what they've been using those. Those have been, and I think they've been using them also, testing them on the moon. And oddly, NASA keeps going, God, we see all of these asteroids hitting the moon.
No. They're actually, I'll tell you what, those people, and I'm going to say this is classified, 95% of our weapon systems are out in space for 3 different types of targets. 1, space-based asteroid and comet-like objects to change their orbital pattern and their impact trajectory with Earth or the moon. Number 2, space vehicles from other worlds which are not in alliance with the Earth and its so-called allies. And number 3, they have space-based weapon systems that can be turned back toward Earth, that can hit a continent and can have a scalar signal that can wipe out a crop, trigger off an earthquake or volcano, or assist along with space-based lasers to steer weather systems like a pinwheel and pull in storm cells in order to be able to control weather anywhere on the planet. So they've weaponized the planet Earth is what they've done.
Yeah, and the long-term climate control, I talk about weather bombing. It's a term I use, but basically weather warfare. Weather is a tremendous technology for warfare because you can cover an entire area. It's much more effective than nuclear bombs.
So sorry for the people of Japan, what the Department of Energy has done to that fucking place. That is none but the United States Department of Energy. The evil is Qatar. You know, Barry Antoinette, let them eat yellow cake.
Right now it's 7:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is one for the record. I'm Diana, and we have a situation going on in South Carolina. Has 4 nuclear power facilities, 2 closely located in neighboring states. Also, South Carolina counties, except for 5 coastal counties. Beaufort, Beckley, Charleston, Dorchester, and Georgetown fall within a 10 or 15 mile emergency planning zone of at least 1 nuclear plant. Okay. So we have a situation going on in South Carolina. No explosive residue found at nuclear facility after lockdown, officials say. This about an hour ago. They locked down this nuclear plant. Aiken County, South Carolina. Possible explosive residue detected on a delivery truck triggered the emergency response. The possible residue was detected on the vendor's truck by a dog and by electronic scans. Okay, you got it. If I lived by any of that stuff, I would move away from it.
You know, I was a human rights activist before Fukushima happened. You know, they could have entombed it. You know, the Reagan thing. GE has been liquidating illegally. Why they're in litigation? USS Reagan. It gets a law. Goldman Sachs yesterday bought up their portfolio. Here, buddy, hide it over here. You know, it's a catastrophe. This fucking thing's horrible. Did you know how those guys said they got away with the fucking test over there? When this activist exposed it, I understand they're going to do nothing. Now, my guess is they've been doing it the whole time. Why? Why? Because they're sociopath, eugenic, sick fuckers. And if you don't believe me, the science and technology team, look up John Holt.